If you notice, I'm back in the fish corner because I'm talking about Luca today. Hooray! I talk with my hands a lot. One hand's painted and one hand is not. And I'm going to choose to say that that is an artistic reason to show the duality of fish and human as so in the movie. I want to talk about a bunch of aspects of Luca, and it's not gonna be like all those other times when I said like, oh, I'm gonna talk about Call Me By Your Name again, or I'm gonna talk about Wonka again, and then I only made 2 videos of each. We'll see if I keep making videos about that. I might. I have things to say, but who knows if I'll say them. This one is gonna be a little different because I actually do want to talk about Luca quite a lot because I just really love it. And there's a lot to dissect and a lot to think about. This first one is just going to be about why I love it. It's gorgeous to see in theaters. The music makes you feel like you're flying. It's sensational. And a few of the things that made me want to go watch the movie was people were saying that it's kind of like Call Me By Your Name for kids. It's a metaphor for being gay. It's all of these things. And I'm like, that is extremely intriguing. I love Call Me By Your Name. I want to go see this movie. I would say, first impression, very, very surface. It is kind of like Call Me By Your Name for kids aesthetically. It takes place in Italy. It's got 2 lead boys and 1 girl that has some lines. Features water and summer and being gay a little bit. But that's kind of where the similarities end. Call Me By Your Name is a drama romance. It's much more serious. It's not super fun. It's more just like aesthetically beautiful, calming, nice, and then you get kind of sad at the end. But Luca is much more exciting. It's an adventure movie. It's not really a comedy, but it's fun. And you're like, yeah, this is exactly what you mean. It's Call Me By Your Name for kids. I would not say that though. It's not Call Me By Your Name for kids, unless you think that just being Italian makes it Call Me By Your Name, which Call Me By Your Name isn't even strictly Italian. It's got like Americans and they speak French, and it's made by a guy who like lived in Italy for a bit, but not always. And you know, that's not even super Italian. And Pixar is definitely not. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm talking myself into it. If you've seen Finding Nemo, Finding Nemo has those water sounds, like the water sloshing sounds, because it's fish. And Luca uses the same kind of sounds. Wait! Which is so fun and so cool to hear in the theater, like a nature documentary where like they're like following fish around. It's an interesting thing because it's like calming, but it's like exciting, and it's kind of, in a weird way, it's like, oh my gosh, I've heard water before and they put it in the movie, which sounds crazy. The bar is so low now. People just making correct environmental sounds is mind-blowing. But it is, you know, once you break it down, we're like, it's so easy to not include that. But including it makes it so much more rich. Plus, it's just a gorgeous looking movie. It's very like bright and vibrant, and it takes place by the sea in the summer. And instead of it feeling like cold and scary, the ocean feels very warm and inviting. A bit of background is it's a story about a sea monster kid. He's lived his whole life as a sea monster. He is told that the human world is scary, but he hears legends of being able to change into a human. He is very interested in human culture, but he's scared to go because he's told that like they'll hate you, you're not welcome there. He finds this friend who pulls him onto the shore and helps him like get more comfortable being a human, like, or looking like a human. Then they go off to the human town and try to live amongst them. So that's the basic stuff you need to know. So like in the beginning of the movie, Luca is at home. He lives with his family and his neighbors, and they're little farmers, and he's a shepherd of a school of fish, and it's very rural, small town vibes. It's just like a beautiful countryside, but it's underwater. So it's like, oh, he comes from this small town, but he's a fish. He's bored of living on the farm and he wants bigger things for himself, but he's scared because he only knows this beautiful land. He is told all the time that the human world, where he wants to go, is dangerous. Instead of having a contrast with the human world, they shift like the color palette, but not the vibrancy, which is so great, because it's not like the human world is bad and dirty and terrible and don't go there, and the underwater world is dark and scary and cold. They're both great, bright, vibrant places. They're just different. And that's pretty much the whole concept of the movie, in a way, but we'll get into that. It's about a lot of things, and it's so solid. Every arc ties up in a bow. It's like the character acts correctly throughout their arc. Like they act in character throughout their arc. It's not like out of left field, somebody just like, wait, where'd that come from? It's like this character acts like this. They're in a new situation. They act like themselves. It's great. It's so like satisfactory. Top ranks for Pixar movies that are satisfactory. In terms of the metaphors, sometimes it's very solid with, these are literal sea monsters who turn into humans, and sometimes it is very solid with, okay, this is a metaphor for being gay. And it's both. And it's like some of the things are just, it's not super consistent as a gay metaphor, because there are certain situations that happen that just don't make any sense for being gay. Like revealing that they're sea monsters is supposed to be like, oh, finding out if they're gay or not in the human world. Because Luca is told by various sources, his parents, the friend that they meet, the posters on the wall of the town, that this town hates sea monsters, him and his friend Alberto are like, okay, we have to keep this. And there are certain things where just like, that's it, it's just sea monsters. But there are certain things where the villain, the bully of the town, is like making fun of them and dips their head into the fountain, which is very similar to like people being bullied and being called gay as an insult. One, I also think it makes sense to be a bully and just like dunk people's heads in the fountain to be annoying and humiliating. I think that that's a perfectly fine thing. There's a fountain in the town. Nobody likes getting their head dunked in a fountain consensually, so I think that's a fine bullying tactic for them to have chosen, but it also just aligns with like the fear of being seen. Like, oh no, if I get in that fountain, they'll know I'm a sea monster. That fear of being found out kind of thing, which is, all of the movie is pretty much showing being discriminated against, living in fear, keeping secrets about who you are or where you come from, and then eventually accepting yourself, accepting your friends, being accepted by people, finding people who care about you, and embracing who you are, which is really beautiful. And that makes it relatable to anybody who has like secrets, anybody who has things that they feel shameful or that they're discriminated against for. One of the creators or directors or art people was saying that they wanted to add it more overtly, that it was about being gay, but that they couldn't for whatever reason. But I do think it's a pretty on the nose. It's pretty on the nose, but it's not a perfect metaphor, which is, I think that that's fine. It's still really cute, and it's still really great, and it's still really heartwarming. You start crying in the climax of the third act, and you don't stop crying until the end. You go to the theater, you embarrass yourself with your crying face and your nose blowing, and then you go home and you're like, wow, that was a great movie. I love things that have just elaborate metaphors. That's how I process a lot of things, is by saying metaphors or, making comparisons between situations, which is essentially what a metaphor is, or a simile or anything of the sort. I really love doing that because it allows you to get the feeling of something without having to have the words to say it. You can just be like, oh my gosh, going to that party was like stepping in a puddle while wearing socks. It was absolutely awful. You know, and you don't need to like go further than that. People are just like, yeah, oh my gosh, I know exactly what you mean because I've stepped in a puddle with socks on. Now I'm just explaining why metaphors are great. But still, like I love metaphors, like elaborate metaphors and stories. That's how I write. I love poems and stuff because of the same kind of thing. It's just great. It's like a little fable almost. So this is just my quick one. A quick overview of all the like fun little things that I like about the movie, kind of structurally, kind of vibe-wise, kind of aesthetically. And then I also want to just, later, I want to talk about each character's arc, or a few of the characters' arcs, and how they fit together, and how the story structure is so nice, and so clean, and so like satisfying. It's so great. It's such a great little fun movie. You leave going, hooray! You don't leave going, oh, I wish it was better. I wish something else happened. You know, when you leave Luca, you're like, that was correct. I loved that. That felt great. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Okay. Well, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. I have lots of other videos. If you're excited for Halloween, I have Halloween videos. I have a series where I talk about Halloween monsters and how to date them, like in a romance novel kind of setting. Please go watch my other videos. If you like this one, all right. I'll see you next time where I'll talk about plot. Okay, bye-bye.